Purple Hibiscus is a novel by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, published in 2003. This coming-of-age and Bildungsroman family drama is set in Nigeria. It is mostly told through flashbacks from the first-person limited point of view of Kambili Achike, a 15-year-old girl. Before we start the video, do like and subscribe. The colonial period in Nigeria lasted from 1850 to 1929, with nationalist movements gaining momentum by the late 1920s. Nigeria gained independence from Britain in 1960, but this led to instability and a civil war. After bloody military coups, the Igbo people declared their own Republic of Biafra in 1967. The resulting civil war lasted 30 months, claiming 1 to 3 million lives. In the 1970s and 1980s, oil dominated politics, fueling corruption and instability. Military coups continued, and in 1993, General Sani Abacha seized power, staying in control through bribery and corruption. His sudden death is echoed in Purple Hibiscus, where the head of state Big Oga dies under mysterious circumstances. When democracy was restored in 1999, the elections were viewed as unfair. Ade Coker's character reflects the lives of Deli Jiwa, a journalist, and Ken Saro-Wiwa, a poet and activist who protested the environmental damage caused by oil drilling. Saro-Wiwa was executed under Abacha's rule and Deli Jiwa died in an explosion by a letter bomb. Amaka admires Fela Ransom Kuti, a famous Nigerian musician and creator of Afrobeat. Like Papa, Kuti was educated in England, but he rejected colonial influences, advocating for democracy. Known for criticizing the government, he was repeatedly arrested, beaten, and tortured, and his music was seen as a threat to the military regime. Purple Hibiscus is divided into 4 sections. Kambili Achike is the daughter of Eugene Achike, a wealthy newspaper owner of The Standard, a philanthropist and strict Catholic, whom she calls Papa. She lives with her parents, Papa and Beatrice, Mama, and 17-year-old brother Chukwuka Achike known as Jaja, in Enugu, Nigeria. The story begins on Palm Sunday. During Mass, Jaja refuses to take communion, which angers Papa, who has always demanded academic success, strict obedience, and deep religious devotion from his children. Papa's anger builds throughout the service and explodes once they return home. He throws a book of Mass called Missal, breaking a set of ballet dancer figurines that are cherished by Mama. Kambili reflects that this moment marked the beginning of when things started to fall apart at home. The story shifts back in time to show the events that led to the Palm Sunday. Mama, often disparaged for not having more than 2 children, is pregnant. One Sunday after Mass, she feels nauseous and wants to rest in the car instead of joining their usual visit to Father Benedict, a white, English-speaking priest whom Papa likes. This angers Papa, but Mama, submissive to him, still gets out of the car and tolerates the visit. Despite this, Papa's anger persists. At home, he beats Mama for even considering skipping the visit, carrying her out of the house as she bleeds. Kambili and Jaja clean up the blood. Mama returns the next day but has lost the baby. In the weeks that follow, Kambili struggles in school, though she knows she must perform well to avoid Papa's wrath. Whenever she tries to study, she imagines blood. She finishes second in her class, upsetting Papa, but he is preoccupied with politics. During Christmas, the family visits Aba, Papa's hometown. There, Papa allows Kambili and Jaja to briefly visit his estranged father, Papa Nukwu, who practices traditional religion and refuses to convert to Catholicism. Papa, who sees this as idolatry, refuses to visit his father or allow him into his home. Kambili and Jaja are instructed not to eat, look at the idol, or engage in any rituals during their short visit of 15 minutes. Auntie Ifeoma, Papa's widowed sister, also arrives in Aba with her children for the holiday. The day after Christmas, Kambili starts her period and has painful cramps, needing to take medicine with food. However, Papa strictly enforces fasting before Mass to receive the Eucharist. Jaja and Mama encourage Kambili to eat a little cereal, believing Papa won't notice, but he does. Enraged, he beats all of them. Later, Jaja and Kambili are allowed to visit Auntie Ifeoma in Nsukka. Ifeoma's modest, lively apartment is the opposite of their quiet, luxurious home. In her home, children are encouraged to express themselves and laugh, unlike Papa's insistence on silence and obedience. Kambili develops feelings for Father Amadi, a kind, young priest who is close to Auntie Ifeoma's family. While Jaja and Kambili are staying with Auntie Ifeoma, Papa Nukwu falls seriously ill. Auntie Ifeoma brings him to her home, where he stays in the room Kambili shares with her cousin Amaka. Kambili is scared that Papa will find out she's been in the same house and room as Papa Nukwu, whom he considers a heathen. Papa eventually learns about it and rushes to take Jaja and Kambili home. However, before he arrives, Papa Nukwu passes away. Back home, Papa punishes Kambili harshly by pouring boiling water on her feet, telling her it's a lesson for walking into sin. Before they leave, Amaka secretly gives Kambili a small painting she made of Papa Nukwu. Meanwhile, Papa and Ade Coker, an editor at Papa's newspaper, published a piece implicating the Nigerian head of state in the death of a pro-democracy activist. Soon after, Ade Coker is killed by a package bomb. Papa supports Ade's grieving family with financial help. Kambili, fearing Papa's reaction if he finds the painting, hides it in her room. One day, she shows it to Jaja. They look at it for too long, and Papa catches them. In a fury, he rips the painting to shreds. Kambili collapses on top of the torn pieces, sobbing, and Papa kicks her until she loses consciousness. She wakes up in the hospital, badly hurt. Papa, Mama, Auntie Ifeoma, and Father Amadi all visit her, and she slowly recovers. To Kambili's surprise, Papa allows her and Jaja to return to Auntie Ifeoma's house in Nsukka so Kambili can finish healing. During this time, Auntie Ifeoma faces increasing tension with the university's administrator because of her political outspokenness. Government agents raided her home in an attempt to silence her. Amid this, Mama visits unexpectedly, showing signs of another beating from Papa. Still, they all leave with Papa when he comes to take them home. The story then returns to the events of Palm Sunday, where Jaja refuses communion and Papa breaks Mama's figurines in a fit of rage. After Palm Sunday, things change at the Adichie household. Papa appears weak and unwell, while Jaja openly defies his authority, and the fear that once gripped the family begins to fade. Auntie Ifeoma loses her job at the university and informs them that she and her family will soon move to America. Jaja and Kambili visit Nsukka one last time to see Ifeoma and their cousins, and they go on a pilgrimage to Okpi. During the pilgrimage, Kambili feels the presence of the Virgin Mary and sees visions of her. Father Amadi is reassigned to a new mission, and before he leaves, he and Kambili share an emotional goodbye. Suddenly, Papa is found dead at his desk. An autopsy reveals he was poisoned, and Mama confesses to Kambili and Jaja that she was the one who poisoned him. When the police arrive, Jaja takes responsibility for the crime to protect Mama and is arrested. Jaja did not wait for their questions. He told them he had used rat poison, that he put it in Papa's tea. 3 years have passed. Mama is a shadow of her former self, and Jaja remains in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Throughout these years, Kambili and Mama have frequently visited him. Now, with ongoing bribes, it seems likely that Jaja will be released soon. Despite all the violence and pain her family has tolerated, Kambili is hopeful. Now let's analyze Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Nigeria has a long history of British colonialism, lasting over 150 years. The novel's opening reference to Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart tells the story of an Igbo man's struggle against European missionaries. Papa is a colonial product, shaped by missionary schooling and an English education. He speaks with a British accent around white people and avoids speaking the native Igbo language. Papa rejects Nigerian culture, preferring European customs. He insists that church services be conducted in English and Latin. And his home is filled with Western luxuries like satellite TV and a fine China tea set. However, the success Papa projects is superficial. The children are not allowed to watch television, and Papa's home, though modern, feels empty, mirroring his pretentious behavior around white people. Papa Nukwu, on the other hand, sees colonialism as an evil that destroys Igbo traditions. He remains loyal to African customs and the pantheistic religion of their ancestors, even if it costs him a relationship with his grandchildren. Papa, in contrast, is so committed to colonial ideals that he has turned his back on his own father. Father Amadi, who represents modern Nigeria, finds a balance between the old and new, believing both can coexist. Kambili describes a military coup that occurs during family time, heard about on the radio and later read in newspapers. Papa's paper, The Standard, is the only one disparaging of the new government. As political unrest grows, Kambili witnesses more signs of instability, including soldiers raising stalls, beating women, and executing men publicly. After the Standard reports on these events, Ade Coker is arrested, tortured, and later killed for speaking out against the regime. In Nsukka, where Kambili and Jaja visit Auntie Ifeoma, there is more political unrest. University students riot over the lack of basic utilities, and the university is taken over by military rule. Obiora compares the university to Nigeria itself, controlled by one man with unchecked power. Professors' salaries are withheld, and essential services like water and electricity are frequently cut off. Medical technicians protest and food prices hike. Corruption rumors swirl, reflecting the broader issues of mismanagement and exploitation in the country at large. The British colonial oppression led to corruption and brutality within the Nigerian government that was established afterwards. The military regime of the head of state uses violence as a tool of censorship and control, resulting in the deaths of Ade Coker and pro-democracy activist Nwankidi Ojeki, and raiding Auntie Ifeoma's home. Similarly, Papa enforces his oppressive control over his family through both psychological manipulation and physical violence. For example, when Mama, feeling nauseous, doesn't want to visit Father Benedict, Papa beats her, causing her to miscarry. Kambili recalls hearing loud bangs from her parents' bedroom, followed by the sight of Mama with a bruised eye or bleeding as Papa carries her out. After Mama's first miscarriage, Kambili is haunted by the image of blood as she struggles with her schoolwork. When Kambili and Jaja stay in the same room as Papa Nukwu, whom Papa sees as a heathen, he pours boiling water on their feet, believing they've walked in sin. Papa kicks Kambili until she is hospitalized for having a painting of Papa Nukwu. She also recalls how Papa deformed Jaja's finger when he was just 10 years old for missing 2 questions on his catechism test. When Kambili breaks the Eucharist fast due to menstrual cramps, Papa beats the entire family with a belt, believing the punishment will keep the devil from causing disobedience. Papa tightly controls his family's movements, requiring permission to leave the house, and even then, they are supervised by their driver, Kevin. He also uses Father Benedict to control his children's behavior. Papa maintains absolute control through a cycle of abuse and care. For example, when he offers Kambili and Jaja a love sip of tea, it is scalding hot and burns their tongues, but they welcome it as a sign of affection, even though it causes them pain. His constant beatings have left his children silent. When Ade Coker jokes about their quietness, Papa does not laugh. Jaja feels ashamed that he cannot match Obiora's intelligence or ability to protect his family. He comes to associate religion with punishment and eventually rejects his faith. Throughout the novel, Mama suffers 2 miscarriages due to Papa's abuse, and it is suggested that his beatings also caused previous miscarriages. After each miscarriage, Papa makes the children say special prayers for Mama's forgiveness, implying the loss is her fault, even though he caused it. Mama, believing she cannot survive outside her marriage, dismisses Auntie Ifeoma's ideas of life beginning after marriage as mere university talk. She endures the abuse because she sees it as part of her role. In the end, this cycle of violence leads to more violence in the attempt to break free from it. Just as colonialism led to a corrupt post-colonial government, Papa's violence drives Mama to poison and kill him. Silence is part of the titles of 2 of the novel's sections, Speaking with Our Spirits and A Different Silence. Silence is closely linked to the fear that Mama, Kambili, and Jaja feel towards Papa. Kambili rarely speaks, afraid of stuttering or provoking her father's anger. She and Jaja communicate mostly through glances, sharing a language of the eyes as they are seldom alone and never openly discuss Papa's abuse. Their communication consists of whispers, subtle facial expressions, and small gestures, with Mama sometimes using these cues to comfort them after Papa's violent outbursts. Kambili's quietness becomes more noticeable when she is around Auntie Ifeoma's family, who are always laughing, singing, and expressing their thoughts openly, and Father Amadi, who sings during his prayers. In contrast, Kambili and Jaja's silence stands out, making Amaka, Ifeoma's daughter, question if something is wrong with them. However, with the encouragement of Auntie Ifeoma and Father Amadi, Kambili begins to speak more and even sing. Jaja, too, becomes more comfortable speaking and eventually uses his silence as a form of defiance against Papa by refusing to talk to him. This dynamic mirrors the political situation in the country. Those who criticize the government, like Auntie Ifeoma, Ade Coker, and even Papa, are often punished. Despite running a newspaper that challenges the authoritarian regime, Papa fails to see the similarities in how he controls his own family. Papa and Ade Coker embody the power of free speech, with their newspaper being the only one to criticize the tyrannical government. Auntie Ifeoma voices her opposition to corruption. However, a package bomb silences Ade Coker, and Auntie Ifeoma loses her job and her home is raided. Now, with Papa dead and George's impending release from prison, the silence within the family has changed. Each member carries a new peace and the same hope, although they don't speak of it. The old silence was driven by fear, but for Kambili, this new silence is encouraging. Silence hangs over us, but it is a different kind of silence, one that lets me breathe. Now we will take a close look at the important symbolism of purple hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. The purple hibiscus grows in Auntie Ifeoma's garden, created by her botanist friend Philippa, as hibiscuses are not typically purple but red. Jaja is captivated by the flowers and discovers a passion for gardening through them. He takes some stalks of the purple hibiscus and plants them in a nugu. The unusual color of the purple hibiscus symbolizes the freedom that Kambili and Jaja begin to experience away from Papa's control while staying with Auntie Ifeoma. After Jaja refuses communion on Palm Sunday and Papa breaks the figurines, Kambili reflects that Jaja's defiance seemed like Auntie Ifeoma's experimental purple hibiscus. Rare, fragrant with the undertones of freedom. The purple hibiscus signifies freedom and individuality, qualities they are denied under Papa's authoritarian rule but discover in Nsukka. By the story's end, Kambili is hopeful that Jaja will plant the purple hibiscus after his release from prison. Mama has a collection of cherished ceramic ballet dancer figurines displayed on the étagère. These delicate, finger-sized figurines depict ballerinas in various graceful poses. Mama polishes them after Papa's beatings. Although Mama, Kambili, and Jaja never openly discuss Papa's violence, the act of polishing the figurines becomes a subtle reference to his abuse. The figurines symbolize Mama's vulnerability to Papa's physical attacks. After Mama returns from the hospital following a miscarriage caused by Papa's violence, she chooses to polish the figurines before eating or bathing. On Palm Sunday, Papa becomes enraged by Jaja's defiance and throws his missile, shattering the figurines. As Mama cleans up the broken pieces, she tells Kambili that they will not replace them. This suggests that Mama is no longer willing to tolerate violence, much like Jaja's refusal to obey Papa. Thus, the figurines represent the family's silence and submission under Papa's fear, and their destruction marks the beginning of a new era of freedom and outspoken defiance. Hope you like and comment for more such videos.